Senator Lindsey Graham issuing a dire warning about taxes if health care reform is not completed. Take a listen.
We need to keep trying on health care. If we fail on health care, we're going to fail on taxes.
Now to weigh in on all this is Republican Congressman from South Carolina and Freedom Caucus member Mark Sanford. Do you get what Lindsey Graham is saying? Because I don't, unless you're a believer in this pay-for system where you, before you have a tax cut, you have to somehow pay for it, which I don't buy into. Do you?
Well, I don't buy into it, but the problem is the way that reconciliation works is it has to be budget neutral. So I suspect what the senator is getting at is, again, since reconciliation is the vehicle here for tax reform, and given that it requires budget neutrality, one of the things that was built in with health care is, in essence, over $1 trillion to pay for. So what he's getting at is, if you don't have the $1 trillion there, where are you going to get it? I suspect that's what he's getting at.
But, Congressman, that whole revenue neutrality stuff is bunk. There's no bill that is exactly revenue neutral. It doesn't happen. You know that very well.
Right.
It may be somewhere in somebody's head in Harvard University or something, but in reality, nothing is revenue neutral. It either makes more money or it makes less money, but it's never exactly the same. So why don't you just get rid of that myth?
Well, I'm with you there. I mean, there are a lot of myths out there that have longevity.
Yeah,
in
but this is what President Trump was elected to do, to get rid of those myths that the people inside the Beltway live and die for, which aren't true and which are hurting Americans.
Yeah, but in other words, I don't think this falls in the category of myth. I think this falls in the category of quasi-false advertising. I think that when most people think about a tax cut, they think about taxes being cut. What's actually being talked about, if you look at the fine print, is not a cut in taxes overall, but a reshuffling of the cards with tax reform, so that some people maybe get a little bit lower, less in the way of taxes. Some people pay a little bit more.
But Congressman, I just make it very simple. I've been through this since the Reagan years, and I know you have too. It's very simple. We're talking about cutting tax rates. In the end, some people may end up paying more because, in fact, they get all these deductions that they wouldn't get anymore. But the bottom line is you just got to go in there and cut the rates. Until you do that, the economy is going to go along in a sluggish way. The market may be popping because companies will make more money, but middle-level and small-level businesses are not going to gain until you start really getting serious about cutting rates.
You're precisely right. It was interesting that the economist, I think it was Marty Feldstein, years ago said that the thing that you can do to most impact economic activity in this country or any country is to lower marginal rates. And so I think that that's ultimately what the Republican plan is based on, and I think it's something that will begin activity and work come September.
By the way, a final word on this attempt by President Trump to get some kind of discipline on health care reform. He wants to force people inside Congress and their staff to pony up and live under the Obamacare rules as they were supposed to do back in 2010 when they agreed to apply to themselves the same rules they were applying to everybody else. But then President Obama came in, gave them this special 74% subsidy of all of their health care bills. Do you think the president should do that to force people's hands?
Yeah, I mean, again, Ron DeSantis had that very amendment back years ago when this debate took place, and I supported it. A number of others supported it. Largely, Congress, lives on an exchange. Just as there is with any other employer-sponsored plan, there's the corporate, subsidy. So I'm not justifying that. I'm saying I agree with it. But
if you make a law for everybody else, you gotta apply the law to yourself. Congressman, we got Apple earnings coming up
right now.
I'm so sorry to cut you short, but we got to get to a break to get into those Apple earnings. Thank you so much for coming on.